Now being recorded, so let's pray. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swanti Namani. Namaste Sarasvati Vani Vachaline Nivasishas Nivari Pashtatara Satarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, remember we left off last week. It was a very interesting discussion between obviously Gopakumar and the Navayogendras. Yeah. And Gopakumar is in. Now let me share one here. You see this here? It's a nice picture. It's not the complete picture. It's just showing one universe. Now, beyond this picture, where I've got my cursor, it goes up to the spiritual realm. Yeah, this is just one of the many billions and millions of material universes, which is encapsulated in an eggshell, in an egg-like, egg-like covering. You see the different coverings: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, as we know from Srimad Bhagavatam describes. And each one of these is twice as extensive as the previous one. So anyway, the main point we're getting to, everyone can see my cursor moving around?
Yes, we can.
Okay, right. So here we are. And here, this is where Gopakumar, this is where his journey started. This is where his journey started from Boma, the Earth planet. And I think we didn't hear much about this one here, the abodes of the Rakshasas and the ghosts. It's quite, relatively speaking, from the cosmological point of view, the realms of the ghosts and the Rakshasas is quite close to this planet Earth. That's why we're often visited by such beings, Rakshasas and ghosts. There you have it, just to let you know that if you didn't know. And then above that, we heard about Gopakumar going to Indraloka. So let's hear, this is Swagaloka. And there, it was there that he met some sages. Can I remember the details of his visit to Mahaloka? Was it mentioned? I know he met some sages because he was quite enamored by the heavenly planets. And specifically, he was enamored by their worship of the Lord. Anyway, can't recall the details now, but then he went to Mahaloka. And then he went to Janaloka. This is where the 4 Kumaras are situated, as far as I can remember. And now he's in Tapaloka. He is here now. And this is a place of great yogis, but these yogis are wrapped in meditation on Vishnu. So remember that Gopakumar is a little bit disappointed because there's no actual visible worship going on there of his Lord, because they're all wrapped in meditation. They're actually meditating upon the Lord within. And so now we pick up our discussion where Pippalayana, one of the 9 Navayogendras, he's speaking to Gopakumar about the efficiency and, from his point of view, the superiority of meditation upon the Lord, mystic yogic meditation. So that's where we left off last week, and that's where we will continue. So it gives you an idea where we are. And next we're gonna hear about Lord Brahma's abode. And that's probably coming out, but not for some time yet, because I went forward last week after we finished our discussion. and looked at the verses that are coming up. And it's quite a lengthy discussion that Pippalayana has with Gopal. It's a bit technical, but let's try our best to follow it. Hare Krishna. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Little nice picture. And I'll stop that share, and I'll share another screen. Okay. And I share the Bhagavatamrta. If I was
Sorry, Prabhu, which page, please? Hare Krishna.
it's text 90.
90. Okay,
It's
thanks.
text 91. We finished on text 90 last week. Yeah,
Okay.
I've even got a bookmark here. Wow, that's amazing. Hare Krishna. I remember to put a bookmark. Okay, let's have some devotees would like to read. Kunamai, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay, you can read from text 91. Sanskrit,
Thank you.
I think we're missing. You can chant the Sanskrit if you like, but I think generally we're not doing that here.
Okay, text 91. Without the functions of the mind, the functions of all the senses are useless. For even if one acts, one's deeds will be as if never performed, because the self will be unable to perceive them. Commentary. The same point is re-argued here, but by negative logic. When the mind is inattentive, the senses may be active, but they cannot establish real contact with their objects. Each sense has its own proper object, form for the sense of sight, texture for touch, and so on. The purpose of senses is achieved when they contact their objects and perception occurs. Perception, however, requires the active participation of two other agents as well, the mind and the soul. If the mind is not focused on a sense receiving input from an object, no sensation will reach the self, and no conscious perception will arise. This explanation from everyday life, anyone can understand. By extension, Pippalayana argues once seeing the personality of Godhead is in reality the Lord's manifesting himself through the functions of one's purified consciousness. It is not direct perception through the eyes, because the Supreme Lord stands outside the scope of the activity of the senses.
All right, a little bit quite technical this discussion is going to be. But is everyone, I'm sure we've all had that experience, what's being explained here, at least in the first paragraph, is that you're just absent-minded. You may be in a conversation with 2 or 3 people, but your mind is somewhere else. So you may be in close proximity to the sound, but you don't hear it. I'm sure we've all had that experience. And also, for example, in worshipping the deity, there's quite a lot of there's quite a lot of rituals, so to speak. But the most important factor in worship of the deity is the mind. If the mind is not involved in worship, then one gets very little benefit. So Pippalayana is mentioning the importance. Okay, the senses may be engaged in their objects, but the real perception, however, requires the mind, and the mind is kind of empowered by the soul. It's the soul that invigorates the mind and gives it the ability to absorb. Yeah, it's the soul. It's the energy come from the soul. So, and this last paragraph, I can't understand it. This explanation from everyday life, and anyone can understand that we've explained. By extension, Pippalayana argues one's seeing the personality of Godhead is in reality the Lord's manifesting himself through the functions of one's purified consciousness. Okay. It is not direct perception through the eyes, because the Supreme Lord stands outside the scope of the activity of the senses. Okay, so as far as I can understand, he's speaking again about the superiority of the Lord's manifestation within the mind, which is being from his experience, being superior than actual darshan, using the senses, for instance, the eyes. Yeah, because the mind is, because you can be looking at something, but your mind may be somewhere else. Perhaps we might have experienced that when we have deity greetings. The Lord's there, Govindam Hari Purusham, and we're somewhere else. All right. Any I guess we good to perhaps try and understand as we're going through this as much as we can. Try and follow the argument or the logic that he's using. Pippalayana. Huh? All right. If there's any comments on that, otherwise you can read on.
Text 92. In the Lord, out of compassion.
If the Lord, yeah.
Sorry, if the Lord, out of compassion for his devotees, sometimes reveals himself to their eyes, that vision actually occurs by the power of mind. One only imagines the eye to be the seers. Commentary. But didn't devotees like Dhruva and Prahlad see the Supreme Lord directly with their eyes? Aren't those devotees famous for having seen the Lord in person? Yes, the Lord made himself visible to those great devotees out of fatherly affection to fulfill the purpose of their eyes. But in fact, Pippalayana says, the devotees beheld those revelations through pure consciousness, not through the physical eyes. Because the scope of our physical sight is narrow, with our eyes we are unable to perceive an object that has no limits. Why then are Dhruva and Prahlad and others famous for having had the Lord's darshan? And why is he famous as Bhakta Vatsal? He who shows affection for his devotees. It is because in each case the devotee, the jiva soul, identifying with his own senses, presumed, I am seeing the Lord directly with my eyes. That those devotees thought that way is evidence that the personality of Godhead was kind to them, and that the sense of sight fails to perceive what is beyond its scope does not mean that the eyes are utterly useless.
Okay, do we follow that? I'm sure, I don't know, we could just read on, but good to try and perhaps. Any questions about this? Can anyone give a summary of what's being explained here? Don't worry. Sorry?
Is it possible? Sorry. Is it possible that the eyes don't see, like Bilva Mangal Thakur, he had given up his eyes, but he could still see the Lord?
Yeah, that's a good point that you could say could have been aptly put in this commentary. So there's an example. Someone does not have so this would have been in favor of Pippalayana's angle. You had Bilvamangala Thakur, then he did not have no physical eyes, but he could see the Lord within the sky of his heart, perceived through the mind. So I think Prabhupada would, thank you, my brother Kishore. Srila Prabhupada would often say things, what is the use of these eyes? They are limited. So, Atashi Krishna, Namadi Nabavet Griham Indriya. So our senses are limited. So therefore, it takes a certain manifestation of the grace of the Lord, which manifests within the mind or within the heart. And then it enlivens the vision. Then one can perceive. That's what's being explained here. But without that mercy, then we're just the senses are seeing matter. They may not be perceiving the Lord directly. But at the end of the commentary, it says, but the eye is not utterly useless. Because even if we take darshan, okay, so we might not be getting shakshat darshan. It may not be that we're actually perceiving completely the Lord's personal presence upon the altar. But with the devotion that we do have, we are purifying and we are relishing the beauty of the Lord. So the eyes are not useless. So we should take darshan of the Lord. Even though that darshan will be varying, will be different, it will be experienced for different devotees, depending on their specific devotion, depending on their specific consciousness.
Can I say something, Holy
Please.
Prabhu?
Yeah.
See, Krishna, it will reveal to you through seeing his form and more. But then the eyes will not allow you to, it will allow you just to concentrate even more on his form.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Even if you don't receive the whole form.
Yeah.
But it will give you a glimpse in spiritual worlds, even if your eyes are not able to perceive everything. Somehow it will translate in your mind.
Yeah,
your
you're
consciousness,
right. Yeah,
not mine.
and that's why Pippalayana's glorifying, or he's mentioning about the mind in relationship to having darshan of the Lord. And I'm hesitant to say, but I've already said it, which means I'm going to say it. Many years ago, it was the first bhajans that Shivaram Maharaj, Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj done at our temple. Because many years ago, bhajans weren't the thing. Anyone remember? Those have been a few years in ISKCON. And then Shivaram Swami Maharaj was there. Also, Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj was there. And then it came to the 9 o'clock darshan. And I dressed the deities, and dressed the deities is a beautiful outfit where Radharani has a cape. And for me, at least for those few seconds, it was as if the Lord was fully present on the altar. Well, he is anyway, but somehow or another, the devotion of all the devotees there, when the curtains opened, it was like everyone was kind of stunned by the devotion of Londonishvara. Remember, even Jayadvaita Swami, who's always a bit reserved, he was kind of came right up to the altar and was like in ecstasy, and everyone. Anyway, like that. And I became as if, and I was looking through the crack of the door, looking at everyone taking darshan. So, one of the things you can do is Jai. And I was really, and the presence of the Lord was so profound on that evening that I was convinced that I had to watch. I was convinced that I had to watch the Lord just in case he jumped off the altar. I couldn't move from that spot because I was worried. I was overcome because the whole thing was like ecstatic, and the Lord was so present at that time within my. I think it wasn't just me; everyone was really appreciative, especially the senior devotees and others. I was really worried. I was thinking that any moment the Lord's going to jump off the altar. It's going to happen. Of course, it wore off. It kind of wore off afterwards, and like that. Anyway, so I'm sure we've all had that experience sometimes when we're looking with the same eyes that we usually look, but then by the mercy and grace of the kirtan, by the mercy and grace of the devotees, devotion of the devotees, then we see something extra special. We're actually drinking through our eyes the beauty of the Lord and his personal presence. Difficulty describing words, but I'm sure as devotees, we've all had that experience to one degree or another. And
sorry, I'm jumping in. I think we can breathe it in. Sometimes you can feel it. You breathe in, it's like you can feel the air changing.
I don't know about that, but I take your word for it. Madhumanga was a bit mystical, we see.
And you can see Krishna, you can feel like the ecstatic presence inside. I don't know, the
Yeah.
air.
Okay, yeah. So also don't forget that the Lord is present in his holy name as well. So these experiences also can be quite profoundly felt in chanting his holy name. Yeah.
You
All right,
know,
please.
from the temple room,
Yeah.
if you're taking darshan, there is a spot there in the temple room. If you stand there, both Radhaland and Ishwar, both personalities, they look you in the eyes.
So
There is a spot there. You just have
Kurumai's
to
found the spot. You have to mark that spot for us, Kurumai. Next time you go there, you mark it with an X. We can all go to that spot. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yes, we can. So this is an interesting discussion, as I'm saying, because we're used to, we don't do meditation like Pippalayana is doing here, so, except for the holy name. But we engage our senses in cooking for the Lord, in seeing the Lord, in smelling of flowers offered to the Lord. It's a very much a sensual experience, sensual in a positive, transcendental sense. Okay. All right, so I keep cutting you off, Kunamai. You just read 2 verses.
No problem. It's so good.
Any other comments or questions? Let's see where we're going now. Text 93.
Text 93. And even if by the power of his mercy, he becomes visible to the external eyes, the bliss that arises from seeing him has its natural source in the heart. Commentary. But isn't the Supreme Lord, by his personal energies, free to do anything he wants? Yes, but miracles are for the ultimate benefit of the conscious soul, rather than for the soul's inert senses. The power of the Lord's compassion could indeed make the physical eyes able to perceive him, if he so desired, but the fruit of that perception, the pleasure felt from it, would still come from where pleasure, pain, and anxiety are always born, the mind.
You
Text
understand
93.
that? Let me try. It's good to try and give a little summary of this as well. I'm trying to understand myself what's being said here. I was thinking of something and I forgot. The power of the Lord's compassion. Yeah, that was it. It's like when devotees perceive the beauty of the Lord, then they're doing it because they empowered with the what's the Shakti, where it's the knowledge giving Shakti. There's Samvit, Sandini, and Haladini. Yeah, so the Haladini Shakti is the pleasure that comes from pure bhakti, which is personified by Radharani. So what's happening there is that one is perceiving it, one is feeling that because they've received knowledge, Samvit potency has actually revealed the beauty of the Lord. So therefore one can experience the Haladini, the pleasure potency. So in other words, because you're realizing how beautiful the Lord's lotus feet are, for example, you have realized some knowledge has been given to you by which you actually realize the real nature of the Lord's beauty. So it's, and that's by the desire of the Lord, by his kindness. Yeah. So that's why it said it's actually the seat of it's coming from the subtle, which is the mind, or coming from the super soul. Like that. Any comments or questions on that? Hare Krishna. All right, let's read on.
Text 94. That bliss later continues in the heart, even after the Lord is no longer visible to the eyes. Thus, the worthy receiver of that bliss is the mind alone. Commentary. After an audience with the Lord, when he is no longer visible to the eyes, the pleasure of having seen him lingers in the heart. Oh, with my own eyes, I saw the personality of Godhead. I saw him right before me. That ecstasy of seeing the Lord continues in the heart after the eyes can no longer perceive him, indicates that the ecstasy resided only in the heart all along. Why then presume the eyes to be the seers? On the other hand,
Carry on, carry on.
on the other hand, sight is one of the knowledge acquiring senses. So why should it be unable to generate and sustain pleasure? The answer, according to the self-realized authorities, is that the most suitable agent to receive the pleasure of seeing the Supreme Lord is the mind. The mind is analogous to the most reliable minister of a king, a minister who alone in the king's entourage can be entrusted with the care of a most precious object.
Yeah, we did this making friends with the mind, and we will be, I don't know, we're just in the process of, we covered it, I think, about, it's described there in Sankapa Kumudi. So could we say that the most important thing in our, of this is the mind? That's what's going to give us perception of Krishna. It's the purified mind. But we all should be understood as well is that if our senses are not chaste, if they're not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then it's highly unlikely we're going to have the ability for our mind to be absorbed. That's why Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is specifically is the means to engage our senses in the Lord's service. That's Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. But the mind is also a sense, so that's the most important thing to engage in Krishna consciousness, is the mind. For instance, someone can be cleaning the temple room, but they're not. But if they're mindful of what we're doing and we're attentive, then we really get the benefit. But if our mind is somewhere else, then we're going to miss the benefit. We're just going to be inattentive to the nectar that's available. So that's why, so yoga practice is very much about the mind. 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita explains, isn't it? The mind can be a best friend or our worst enemy. Yes. All right, you can read enough. Then we'll call on Kishore to read. You can read one more, 95, and then.
Okay. Text 95. As much as the mind becomes peaceful, to that extent its pleasure grows. No external sense can feel such expanding pleasure. Commentary. It may be argued that the mind is limited in scope, like the other senses. That is true. But when the mind becomes cleared of contamination, the Lord, being satisfied, is prepared to bestow his full mercy. The soul's pure consciousness reflected in the mind is then able to sustain the image of the Supreme Lord. The external senses are unable to do this.
Yeah, that's why we're cleaning, isn't it? Jeto Darpanam. That's what we're doing. We're just scrubbing the mind, scrubbing the contaminations so we can actually perceive Krishna. Jeto Darpanam Marjanam, Mahadavagni Niyavapanam. Yeah, we're cleaning, scrubbing away. Yeah, it's great. We do 2 hours of intense cleaning every day, isn't it? Scrub, scrub, scrub. Hare Krishna, scrub, scrub, scrub. Hare Rama, Rama. Clean, clean, clean. Yeah. And the nature of the mind is very subtle as well. So therefore, the mind often becomes overcome by the lower modes of nature and the samskaras from the past overshadow and cause us to be inattentive to the activities of bhakti. Anyway, Hare Krishna. Okay, Raj Kishore, anyone like to share any comments, then please do.
I was thinking this,
Yes.
why we have to purify the mind, because the mind is the one that is going to go to the other body. It's going to go with us, like one of the subtle things.
Yeah.
That's going to go with us. So how important it is to
Yeah.
the consciousness of the mind.
Yeah. Very. How important is to bring it on board. Bring it on board with our mission.
Right. Yes. Because we're so conditioned, it always starts thinking wrong things to begin with, but how we have to then keep bringing it back to correct thinking.
Yeah.
And while we practice, like we practice chanting and everything else, it will get there. But we have to keep saying, well, not now, not, we have to keep speaking to it. And no, why did you think this? Speak to Krishna.
Yeah. Well, it's called Manashiksha. You know the book by Raghunath Das Goswami? It comes before Vilapa Kushmanjali. Then Manashiksha is instructions to the mind. Very, very important book for Vaishnavas. Manashiksha shiksha means instructions, so instructions to the mind. Okay, thank you. My verse Kishore, like to pick it up from text 96, or did you just reach then? Carry on.
Text 96, yes. When the Lord expands his special mercy, one sees the Lord within the meditation as if directly with the eyes. This we can understand from what happened to lotus-born Brahma. Commentary. Out of respect for the sage Pippalayana, we may theoretically accept that one derives more happiness from meditating on the Supreme than from trying to see him with one's physical eyes. But isn't it also well known that by seeing the Lord directly, one gains the special happiness of receiving benedictions from him, speaking with him, and having other personal interactions? That may be true, the sage answers, but when the Lord is seen within he mercifully provides all those same benefits. He reveals himself within the heart so that we can give boons.
So he can give
He
boons.
can give boons, speak with his devotee, touch him, and so on. He can do this from within the heart because he is the Almighty Lord, Prabhu, who has special energies that easily arrange for him all these wonderful things. As a concrete historical example, Pippalayana cites the case of Lord Brahma. The epithet lotus-born Padmaja implies that when Brahma was born, he found himself sitting on a lotus. As described in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma, surrounded by the darkness of annihilation, did not know how to proceed in recreating the universe. A mysterious voice then told him to meditate, and when he did, the Supreme revealed himself and his abode. Very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, the personality of Godhead was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. That transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by the self-realized persons free from all miseries and all fear of illusory existence. Bhagavatam 2.9.9. In Vaikuntha, Brahma saw the personality of Godhead, Narayan. The Brahma saw in the Vaikuntha planet the personality of Narayan, who is the Lord of the entire devotee community, the Lord of goodness, of goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe. The Lord was being served by his foremost immediate associates, his loving servitors like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabal, and Arhan. He was leaning favorably towards them. His very sight intoxicating and attractive, his smiling face decorated with an enchanting reddish hue, and he appeared very much satisfied. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. Bhagavatam 2, 9, 15, and 16. Brahma not only saw the amazing form of the Lord, but also had an immediate personal exchange with him. Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with the tears. He thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for the living being. And the Lord, seeing Brahma present before him, accepted him as worthy to create living beings to be controlled as the Lord desired. Thus, being very much satisfied with Brahma, the Lord shook hands with him and, slightly smiling, addressed him. Bhagavatam 2, 9, 18, and 19. When Lord Narayan spoke to Brahma in a way that encouraged him to ask a boon, Brahma asked for instructions on how to create the universe for the conditioned living souls. And the Lord responded by imparting to him the 4-verse encapsulation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Lord Narayana disappeared from Brahma's sight. After the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, seen in his transcendental form, instructed Brahmaji, the leader of the living entities, the Lord disappeared. Bhagavatam 2:9-38. As this passage clearly shows, Brahma meditated on the Supreme Lord in his heart, and then the Lord mercifully appeared, offered him boons, spoke with him, touched him. These events arose out of Brahma's inner meditation. The 3rd canto gives a similar description. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Brahma saw on the water a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Sheshanag, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Sheshanag, dissipating all the darkness of those regions. Bhagavatam 3:8, 22 and 23. Lord Brahma, thus surcharged with the mode of passion, became inclined to create, and after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he offered respectful prayers on the path of the creative mentality. Bhagavatam 3:8-33. After Brahma offered his prayers, Lord Narayan responded, O Brahma, O depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious about undertaking the creation. What you are begging from me has already been granted. Bhagavatam 3:9-29. I am very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify the planets by your acts. Bhagavatam 3:9-39.
Okay, quite a lengthy commentary there. Gopi Pranadhana has given a little synopsis of the perfection of Lord Brahma. I think the reason this is being described is because all the revelation, the appearance of the Lord to Lord Brahma was an internal affair. It wasn't like Lord Brahma opened his eyes and he saw Vaikuntha. It was all manifestation within. That's why it said that these events arose out of Brahma's inner meditation. For example, Prahlad Maharaj, even before the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, he would perceive the presence of the Lord. The Lord would embrace him, and tears would come from his eyes. The Lord would appear, and he would go into great ecstasy and dance in great wild transcendental bliss of having the darshan of the Lord. But this was all manifestation within the sky, I'll use this word, within the sky of his mind and heart. This manifestation of, for instance, the Lord appearing to Prahlad Maharaj, even before he appeared as Lord Nrsingadev, it wasn't if that was the first time that Prahlad Maharaj had perceived the Lord. It's the first time he saw him as a half lion and half man. That's for sure. But before that, he would often be overcome with great ecstasy. But it was that inner, it was a revelation that came from within. So the same with Lord Brahma. So in our Sankalpa Kaumudi, we're coming up to a chapter which is described in the praise of samadhi. So this will be explained more. There'll be other examples of devotees who have this ecstatic revelation of the Lord within the heart. But there is instances as well where the Lord, actually, his abode appears to the actual, it's called Shakshat Darshan, where the Lord is outside of oneself and the whole of Vrindavan manifests there to one's senses. The cows, the Krishna manifest, Balaram manifest, the forest manifest, the cows manifest, everything's manifest. The whole of Vrindavan becomes manifest to a very fortunate devotee. And then it becomes unmanifest again, and the devotee is lost in a great transcendental separation of what he saw. Mother Mongol is raising his hand, I think.
Yes, I am desperate
please.
to say, sorry. What I wanted to say, there is this book, Saints of Braj, from O.B.L. Capone, I think it's written.
Yeah.
And there is a pastimes. I was crying when I read it so many times when these boys, naughty boys, were coming to this Babaji and knocking and saying, please, Baba, can you open to give us a bit of water? And the Babaji was kind of like cursing them, say, go away from here, stop disturbing me from my bhajan.
He's gone through the tube again.
And he opened. Kids, can you hear me now?
We can, yes,
Oh,
yes.
So yeah, there were these two boys, and when the Baba opened the door, he saw these beautiful effulgent boys, and he started pouring water to them, and the water was, he was looking mesmerized, and the water was flowing outside the cup. And then when he went back inside, he just realized, who was this? You know, they were so beautiful. And he went back outside and it was only dust and no one else. But he came with thousands of cows and they were all like thinking, he was thinking, what is this? It's beautiful pastime.
Yeah, that's an amazing, sweet aspect of, this book. We have a copy of this book in the ashram, actually. Different accounts of saints and sadhus in Braj who've had such wonderful revelations of the Lord. Yeah, and the thousands of. Yeah, and we hear the stories of the Goswamis as well. So yes, thank you for sharing that. It's any other comments in that lengthy commentary, but the revelation of the mercy received by a Lord Brahma. Yeah, so we have this internal, there's a word for it, where the Lord appears internally within the heart and mind of a devotee. Forget the word, but then he appears externally. That's called Shakshat Darshan. So we can aspire for such things.
I was thinking about this, or was like, you know how Brahma feels that he's not capable of doing this service?
Yeah.
But Krishna knows his heart. So from within, Krishna knew what he can, and Krishna empowered him to do these things.
Yeah, but specifically he was empowered because of his humble disposition.
Yes,
Because he
internal.
was praying. He was praying that he not fall down when he's creating. Because there are some Brahmas who become attracted to their creation. They become attracted to actually what they create. And that's the Brahmas which come down eventually to the material world. And that's us. Inconceivable or not. According to Bhagavatam, we was Brahma, but we're one of the Brahmas who became captivated by what we created. I'm not asking to explain that anymore, but it's explained there in Bhagavatam. And then we fall down. But this Brahma, he prayed that he not become enamored. So Lord Brahma's prayers for creative energy, and they're wonderful. It's one of my favorite parts of Bhagavatam, actually, this chapter. So wonderful. His earnest humility before he actually becomes empowered. Yeah.
We can also learn a lot from this, can't we? In a tiny way we are. That
Yeah.
anything we do, we have to be really careful that I am not the doer. Though we
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, we have to learn a lot from
Yeah.
these examples.
Yeah, learn from Lord Brahma. As I often like to joke that even if we bake a cake that's nice, we get proud. Let alone create a universe with all of its fine detail and wonder, you know. Yeah. Chunada pisana chuna toroda pishna. Amanina manina kitana sadahari. Then the Lord can trust us. If we have humility, the Lord can empower us because he can trust us. Yeah. That's why he empowered Prabhupada. That's why Prabhupada was empowered so much. Was that prayer he wrote on the Jaladuta? You know, oh Lord, please make me dance as you like. So utter humility invokes the grace and empowerment of the Lord, because we're not going to forget him. We're not going to become intoxicated. You know, but if there's any pride there, the Lord cannot afford to empower us, because it will not do us good. Yeah, I mean, devotees who distribute books, they have that. I mean, I have that experience, and all devotees do, or any devotional service, I guess, where as soon as you become proud, you become disempowered, and you can't do what you could have, what you was easily doing about 10 minutes ago. It all becomes taken away. So you get brought to your knees in a way, to a constitutional position.
Because I was thinking the same, like
Yeah, go on.
you told me, you know, doing this service of schedule, how you don't be envious, you don't do it for spitefully by giving service or taking service. Or it's like
Yeah.
in my head, you know, every time I'm always thinking like that. How you was explaining the other day, you know, it's like, so we have to
because that will, that's what makes, that will contaminate the service. Yeah. If we have these materialistic, if we have these anarthas which get in the way, it can make a big mess of things. You know? Yeah, so we have to pray before we do the schedule. Pray that we can. Yeah, and anybody else? Let's see who's with us. We have 13 devotees with us. Hare Krishna. Everyone's a bit quiet today, but Sunita, Sahachari. Everyone say Hare Krishna. Sunita, say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Muli Prabhu.
Sahachari, say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Murli Prabhu.
Jai.
I'm in the shop.
Radhe Shyam, say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Jai.
Prabhu. Hare
Mano
Bol.
Mohini. Mano
Hare
Mohini.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai. Kunamayi, we've heard from Gopi Gita. Oh, she's not there. She's in the back garden putting out the washing. Gaya.
I'm here as always.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Say Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Lavanga Latika.
Hare Krishna.
Madhamango, we've already heard from you. Anjali.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Did I miss anyone? No, we've heard from Radha Krishna. And it's good to just check in.
The only problem it is we cannot see you.
Oh, you're very lucky.
I am not. I am very
You're very
unfortunate.
fortunate. You should have told me. I mean, I like to put the. If I think it's more personal to put the camera on. Yeah, you should always tell me because I generally my rule is to put the camera on.
I was just waiting patiently.
The camera's on because it's so personal, but
Yeah, it's more personal. Yeah.
yeah.
So we don't have a hard and fast rule here, but we encourage to, because when I speak, I look at the devotees who don't have their camera on, so I can judge how they're reacting to what I'm saying. like if their eyes are closed and they're falling asleep, then I know what I'm saying is not having much effect. Or
No, we are
sometimes they nod their head.
Murli Prabhu.
So if it's anyway. Hare Krishna. So we've still got a precious 7 minutes left. Quick, let's get back into this. Hare Krishna. Just
Okay,
thought I'd
check
check in
Could
with
I
everyone.
read a little bit too, Murli Prabhu?
Sorry?
Could I read a little bit too, please?
You can read a little bit too. So you can pick it up from 97.
It is said that seeing the Lord in person gives joys to his devotees, but causes fear and other hard emotion for others, like Duryodhana and Kamsa. Commentary. Isn't seeing the Lord in person the most ecstatic form of his mercy, and isn't it the perfection of devotional meditation? Yes, but only for the Lord surrender devotees, not for his enemies. As the historical accounts of scriptures tells us, when demons saw him, they felt only troublesome emotions like anger, envy, remorse, and sorrow.
Okay, so different angles being spoken of now. What do the demons? So they see the Lord. So what's going on there? Okay, continue.
The beautiful, all opulent form of Lord Narayana, the concentrated essence of supreme bliss, refines the function of all senses. Yet demons like Madhu and Kaitaba, even after seeing the Lord in person, did not lose their evil disposition, disregretting to all. Commentary. Kamsa and Duryodhana were mentioned by the name in the previous verse, and other enemies of the Supreme Lord were indicated by the word Adi, and so on. Here, Kamsa and Duryodhana are left out, and instead the names of two other demons, Madhu and Kaitaba, are citated. As Gopakumara narrated his own history, he does not want to introduce the glories of Sri Krishna until his student is properly prepared to hear them. Therefore, he does not follow up the mention of Kamsa and Duryodhana with further details of Krishna's pastimes. That will come later. In the ancient past, millions of years before Krishna's appearance, grey demons like Madhu, Kaitaba, Maya, Taraka, and Kalanemi had ample opportunities to see the personality of Godhead in person without obstruction. Yet those demons did not achieve bliss from seeing the Lord, and their wicked mentality never changed. They were duratmas, meaning that their intelligent atma remained always impure, either because they had no devotion for the Supreme Lord, or because, by their demoniac nature, atma, they were inimical rivals of the Lord. The Lord's beauty is the concentrated essence of all divine ecstasy, paramatma, Parama
Kanam.
It is endowed with all the splendor and opulence, Srimats, and therefore by the manifesting his charm, sweetness, and other unique characteristics, it gives pleasure to all the senses, Sarvedriya, Gunanjanam. His beauty also pleases the senses by encouraging them to indulge in the transcendental glorification. Yet despite all attractive qualities of his beautiful form, demons continue to hate the Lord even after they see him. Gopakumara does not elaborate here on what Kamsa and Duryodhana felt when they saw Krishna, but we do have information about this from Srimad Bhagavatam and other sources. When Sri Nandana was present in the tournament arena in Mathura, his moon-like face increased the love of his dear devotees. Headed by Nanda Maharaj to the size of a vast ocean, but But King Kamsa, although born in the same Yadu dynasty as the cowherds of Raja, did not become joyful when he saw Krishna in the arena. Rather, as his heart filled with fear, anger, and other painful emotions, it burned with agony. Again, in the assembly of the Kurus, when Sri Krishna's devotee like Vidura and Bhishma heard Krishna's nectarian words, they were delighted. But although Duryodhana and his friends of the Puru dynasty were all relatives of Krishna who talked and sat with him and had connection with him by marriage, they felt no pleasure from his presence. In fact, they were unable to give up their offensive hatred of Krishna's dear devotees. In the mind of the demons, there was a conflagration of anguish kindled by perpetual anger, envy, pride, and hundreds of other faults, and not for an instant did fire cease to burn.
Did that fire cease to burn?
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Any questions here? It's a very nice explanation by Gopi Pranadhana.
So is it because the demons, they feel all those anger and fear and so on because they are so materially engraved, how to say the correct word, they are covered so much with all this tamaguna behavior that they experience these sensations and they are not purified?
Yes, because to see Krishna, the eyes have to be tinged with the salve of love, as described in the Brahma Samhita. So Krishna, for instance, the Krishna who Kamsa saw was definitely a different Krishna than what Arjuna saw, although it's the same Krishna. So Krishna is perceived through the eyes of devotion. Like, for example, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, we hear that everyone who saw Krishna, they attained some form of liberation. But that would depend, even those on the Kuru side, if there was any appreciation, which there was, of the beauty and magnificence of Krishna as he was killing them, or as Arjuna was killing them, then they would attain liberation, either to the Vaikuntha planets, probably to the different Vaikuntha planets, because there was some appreciation of Krishna means devotion. But here we're hearing about demons who have zero appreciation of Krishna, amazingly enough. Yeah. But Krishna is so kind, as far as I understand, that if Krishna kills these demons, then they obtain liberation, isn't it? That we understand. That's Krishna's mercy. So
can we say that due to our minute independence, Krishna doesn't interfere, lets us feel what we want to feel and gives accordingly?
yeah, what's that verse? Yayatamam papajante tam tadeva bhajami ham mamat vanvatante manushapata shavashaha. Yes, as all surrender unto me, I award them accordingly. Yes, so according.
If they want to see Krishna as their enemy, Krishna says, okay. You look at him, we want to love him. Yeah, okay, we can.
But for instance, like King Kamsa, he was very Krishna conscious. Actually, Narada Muni, he glorifies demons like King Kamsa out of humility for the intensity of their meditation upon Krishna. Yeah, he glorifies them, that they're in a better position than himself, because the intensity of their meditation upon Krishna. And there's a verse that Kamat Dveshat Bhuyat Shnehat, that regardless of one's reason for meditating upon Krishna, out of fear, out of anger, etc., such persons get purified. So that's why I find this interesting, because here, where it seems like here it's been described that the demons that we hear describe here, Madhu, Kataiba, Maya, Taraka, and Kalanemi, they did not achieve bliss from seeing the Lord, and their wicked mentality never changed. On Nodi King Kamsa. Sorry, I got confused with what I'm saying there. Perhaps I better get out while the going's good.
Actually, I was listening to a class today, and Maharaj said, there was a Maharaj, he said that how Narad Muni gets on so well with the demons and the demigods. He could go to Kamsa and explain to him.
Yeah.
I was really, really.
Yeah, he's a great saint, just like the is spoken of in that regards to the Sakoswamis as well. They're appealing to the ruffians and to the saintly.
Saintly, yes.
All right, let's pick this up from next week. Quite significant point. So next week we're on text 100, and I'll write that down before I forget. And we're going to hear more about this wonderful conversation with Pippalayana and Gobble Kamar about meditation on the Lord. Wonderful. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll pause there and look forward to hopefully some of you can join us for Monday when we pick up the Kabakamudi. Hare Krishna. You have a wonderful Krishna conscious weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Modi Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hari Bol, Hari
Hare